The West Texas community still reeling from arrests at two Midland private schools. 9 total administrative and staff members from Midland Christian and Midland Trinity. They're accused of failing to report abuse of a student and concealing it. So what comes next in these cases? Rachel Robinson spoke with the Midland District Attorney's Office and has more on the legal process. Rachel.
Yeah, Crystal, I spoke with the first assistant district attorney, and of course he couldn't give me any specific details on the case. He did explain to me about the legal process and what happens after someone is arrested for a felony and what it takes to get them in front of a jury for a public trial.
5 staff members at Midland Christian High School were all arrested and charged with failure to report with intent to conceal, neglect, or abuse, which is a felony. A short time later, 4 administrators at Trinity were charged with the same thing. So, what's next?
Any felony offense, Texas law says that we have to present that evidence to a grand jury and actually convince them to indict a person before we can go further and dispose of the case or have a trial.
A grand jury is made up of citizens from the community
who listen to accusations and consider evidence, and they decide if the prosecution, meaning the state of Texas, if we have enough evidence to go forward on the case or not.
The grand jury must decide there is enough evidence before a person can be indicted or tried.
A completely different process than convincing a jury beyond a reasonable doubt later on to actually convict somebody. None of that process can really start until the grand jury has returned an indictment on that particular case.
When it comes to presenting the evidence, the prosecution has to get information from police and make a case, which can take some time.
It just depends really on how long it takes for whatever law enforcement agency it is to bring us enough evidence for us to let the grand jury know what the case is about and what evidence we have. And that's really the determining factor in how long it takes us to get that in front of them.
These grand jury trials are also not public.
It's not supposed to be a public process because there are many allegations that come before the grand jury that obviously could be very embarrassing to people. And if a grand jury decides there's not enough evidence to go forward, then there really isn't a charge at that point.
I went to the county clerk's office today, and as of right now, there is no formal indictments for these teachers. If the felony charges go before a grand jury and they do decide that there is enough evidence, the administrators will likely be indicted on these charges and asked to plead guilty or not guilty in front of a judge. As always, we are staying on top of these arrests, and we'll let you know when we have more.